Hey, what's happening? This is Ezekiel
and Sarah,
and we're here today for another episode of Marriage Matters Live.
Yes.
Thank you. Those of you who've been hanging around in the waiting room, skanking along with us, thank you so much for being here. If you're watching this on a replay, so glad to have you here with us.
Definitely.
Get interactive. We ask questions. Put them in the comments box below. How you doing?
I'm good, babes. It's been a hot day.
It's been a real busy day, man.
It has been a busy day.
It's been a busy, hot,
active
day. Yeah,
day.
absolutely.
We've been really busy today, so but we thank God for busyness sometimes. Because rather be busy than bored and not doing anything.
You know what? I'll give you guys a little peep in. So we woke up this morning and I'm hitting the wrong button. Woke up this morning and Sarah's like, let's go and do some stuff that friends do.
I know.
It was just super cool. It was super cool. Like we had a plan to kind of do some stuff, and we started the day just doing some gardening. Man, it was really cool. So just getting out there, getting the house in order. Mm-hmm. Yes, nice and early start. So what are we talking about today?
We are talking about a very interesting topic. To be fair, friendship in marriage, friendship and boundaries.
Friendship. She said friendship in marriage.
Friendship boundaries. Excuse me. Friendship boundaries. Yes. What's the limit? Is it sky's the limit? Do you know what I mean? In some friendships, or is it just, everyone kind of has to know where they are, kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Whereas obviously some people have no filter. They just kind of, they don't have any limits to how they see a person in their life.
Yeah.
Even after the person's married, it's kind of like, this is just the way we are. Nothing should ever really stop that. Nothing should come between the two of us.
Absolutely.
Kind of thing. And obviously when people get married, they have their best men, their maid of honors. Mm-hmm. Their next best friends are generally the bridesmaids, and the men's next best friends are generally the groomsmen. Things like that. So we do carry friends along with us in marriage.
Straight. True.
And it's just something that kind of like naturally happens. No one ever really goes, I'm getting married, I'm gonna pick you and you. Yeah, come in with my maid of honor, come in with my bridesmaids. We've got no relationship, but I'm gonna put you in a high place on the day of my wedding. That's kind of thing. So it is interesting how we do see friends when we're just normal relationships.
Absolutely.
In normal relationships, and then how they kind of spring out in marriage.
Yeah.
But I guess today we're really kind of probably going to be tackling boundaries in marriage, and how should we have boundaries, or should a friend just still always be a friend, and kind of let there be no limit to it in a sense.
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely. I think you kind of gave a real good summary there. I think one of the first things I'd really say is, what were you guys doing today? Chuck that in the message box.
It's true. Hopefully no one was stuck on the M25, on the A406 or the A2 today. Hello, if you're in London, in the UK, because that was a lot of things.
Yeah, definitely.
Traffic everywhere today. And it's so funny because I always think to myself, like, when it's hot, you'd expect people to be at home,
in the garden,
chilling in their garden, on the balcony, on the beach, sipping on some, I don't know, iced tea, whatever it may be. But no, people are really out here on the streets.
What you up to today? So, first question, I guess, really just at the gate is, what are boundaries?
Yeah.
What are boundaries in terms of relationships, in terms of marriages, in terms of friendship even? Let's kind of blow it out a little wider. What are boundaries? And I think that would be a good place for us to really kind of settle in and really kind of establish a foundation. And I think that's key. And I think boundaries, you want to define it? We were talking about it just before we started. You
can define the boundaries.
You sure?
I mean, if anything, it's probably best to get a good reading, a good thing. So shall I go and find?
You can look at a dictionary
definition of boundaries, because I think sometimes people do think boundaries. Oh, it's just a separation, something you just don't cross over into. But let's see if it's anything.
So that's great. Whilst I was doing that, I think one thing that, and I shared this story with you guys. I remember before, this was years and years ago. I would pick up young Grace from school, take her home, and on our journey we'd constantly meet this chap at the train station. His name was Pinder, and we would always have these kind of respectful kind of conversations. Basically, we just met. He was a stranger to us, and then we talk. And Pinder gave me this kind of the principle of the wall, and it was so interesting. And whenever you think about a wall, typically you think about something that's set up to kind of keep to protect, in a sense, to protect, right? And he said it in just such a kind of casual and quirky way, and I guess I was a lot younger at the time, and he said walls are great for keeping things out. He said, but they're also good for keeping things in. Do you understand? And and it's a funny thing. And from that day on, I'd really began to ponder on the way that we set up walls or boundaries or restrictions, because especially kind of in Christendom, I think that there is this mindset of a lot of people that, maybe in early Christian, when you're coming in, it's kind of like, God wants me not to experience certain things for one reason or another, and I think that it's an injustice in certain sense in terms of the character of God, because a lot of people don't see the value that God sets up. So, as a young person, we we want to get involved, do things, of just tackle loads of stuff, and in relationships, it's quite the same. In relationships, I have found that there are those who want to experience different facets of their life in their marital relationship. I won't go into any kind of examples thing, but it's like, it's not just me and hubby. Some people want to bring in some of their external. It's like, the scripture's clear. The scripture puts it this way. It says that there is a period in time that a man and a woman, you leave your home. Do you know what I'm saying? And you set up your exactly.
You leave your mother and father.
And you set up. Okay, so you set up your own what do you call it? Nuclear. That's what we call it. Nuclear family, right? And it's a funny thing, because in doing that, you actually have to leave some things behind.
Yes, definitely.
All right? But not only are you leaving certain things behind, you're actually creating what we might call some new habits, new practices, new boundaries, new restrictions, new goals, new targets for yourself. And I think that from the day that I met Pinder and he put that out, he put that out in the conversation, it really made me think about, in context of what we're talking about now, in a relationship, it's important to set up structures, all right? A boundary, let's say, is a structure that clearly demarcates what is okay and what is not okay, what is permitted and what is not permitted. And again, this should be something that is discussed, I think maybe even pre-marriage, as we've said, on a regular basis, and then we go forward and determine to work that out in our marriage, basically.
Okay, I'll just read that quickly. It says, a line which marks the limit of an area, a dividing line. That's it. Like, literally, it's just a dividing line between, essentially when we're talking about friendship boundaries in marriage, what demarcates, what separates, what lets friends know that this is as far as you can go. And you were saying, you said earlier about discussing friendship boundaries before marriage. I really think that's just definitely something that does not cross people's minds at all, because we grow up with friends. Friends were there before spouses were even there. Friends even sometimes feel more entitled sometimes to know certain things. It's kind of like
of course.
Let's just to say, a couple, they get pregnant and they don't want to tell anybody until they're like 6 months. Friends are like, why are you waiting 6 months to tell me? Like, you should have told me like the minute you found out you could, like,
exactly.
You know what I'm trying to say?
That's a really good example.
And I always kind of feel like that is definitely something that, and a lot of people fall out. Friendships do break up and people go their separate ways, because sometimes when people do get married, especially if the other friend isn't married, sometimes they might not understand. They might not understand how things change. For them, things are exactly the same. They still see their friend the same way. There's no judgment. That they're not judgmental. They still love him or her the same way. Everything is the same for that friend. However, their friend's life and their friend's dynamic has changed. And for them, it's kind of like, okay, yeah, fair enough, you're married now, but why do things have to change? Why before? You'd go out with somebody, you tell me straight away, and now you're expecting, you can't even tell me like the most important thing in your whole entire life. Like, where do you see me now, kind of thing. And those things do cause problems. However, are they right? Are they wrong?
That's you bring an interesting example, and I have a really good friend, and I respect him a lot. From the minute, like, we were kind of married and we were like, children were involved and more children were involved, he would always say, when we talk on the phone, he would always say, I know your situation is different from mine. And like, he's a busy man. He's got like a lot of stuff going on, but he would always show that respect. And I appreciate that in him, because he really, like, even though certain times I was just like, you know, I've got time for you. We've got time to talk. We can still, you know, kick it. But he would always extend that courtesy and respect to me, knowing that not only am I just kind of his friend, I'm also a husband, I'm also a parent, not just a parent to one, maybe a parent to many, and amidst the other things that are going on in my life. So I think that's really cool, and I think that is the contrast that you're presenting there, or that we're presenting, with the different types of friends that you may have.
Yeah.
You have those friends who are kind of ready to fall out with you because things are different now. And you've got those friends who are kind of maybe a little more thoughtful, maybe a little bit more considerate, and they understand that, you know what, things are different now, and because of that, like, we have to grow with the change, the time, we have to mature with that, which is kind of powerful. So you've made a few examples already, and it kind of goes out to you guys as well. What do you think are some of the common boundaries that should be set up within marriages, between the couple and their friends?
Well, for me, the one that always kind of comes to mind for me, first of all, is that, I mean, we talk about this a lot, intimacy, how that should kind of be sacred between the husband and the wife, and shouldn't really be discussed with friends, in a sense. To be fair, if you're discussing, let's say if a woman and 3 of her friends, and they're all married, and they want to discuss how to improve intimacy, how to get advice, in a sense, on how to, you know, things might not be working with one of the friends, and she's kind of like, ladies, look, I really need your help here. I don't know what's going on. Me and hubby are just not kicking it. That's okay to kind of like bring in discussions in like that, for me personally. But to just sit and be like, oh, we do this, and we be doing this, and why tussling me up here, and, you know, and it's just kind of like, those boundaries definitely should be. I don't really think that friends should be in bed with you, in a sense.
On now. I feel
do you know what I mean? So, because people are like, oh, you know, I'm not, they're not in bed with me. You know, we can talk about sex, we can talk about this, However, you're still, there's an imagination.
I didn't know you were going to go, I should have put an 18 on the title for this one, because I didn't realise we were going down that path.
But for me, I always kind of feel like sometimes women they feel so free with their friends. I mean, we grew up we grew up getting changed in front of each other. We grew up, you know, getting ready to go out, and everyone's passing things around and helping each other get ready. So, and again, it depends on the friendship, because some friendships are really deep. Like, you start from when you're really young, from like secondary school, some even primary school, and they work their way up. Some people actually have friends that they went to primary school with, and they're still really good friends today. You know, so there's been that, you know, everyone's kind of, you know, it's like they kind of say, I've seen everything, dude. You know what I mean? I know you from top of your head to your feet, kind of thing. So why do you want to keep things from me? Like, there's nothing that I don't know, kind of thing. And sometimes when friends get to that place where it says, but there's nothing I don't know, well, now the person's married, there should be things that you don't know, you know, kind of thing. But for them, it's kind of like, well, you know, you should still be able to share this with me. This is your life. This is your experiences, like what's going on with you. And a lot of the times, that whole what's going on with you, I just want to know, just so that I know, kind of thing. You know, a lot of people kind of do use that to make it seem like you shouldn't keep anything from me, because what if something happens to you? What if, you know,
that's a common one, isn't it?
Yeah, what if something happens to you? What if you start having trouble in your relationship and you can't say nothing? I should be able to know certain things, so I can pick up signs when I do see it, kind of thing. You know, seriously, because like I said, it does depend on the type of friendships that people do have. Some people have always kind of grown up knowing that friends are friends. However, there's friendship and there's the relationship that they have, and they are good at separating the two and keeping the friends on one side and keeping the relationship, their marriage, on another side. You know, it's not that they're not invited to weddings, birthdays, parties, christenings and all that kind of stuff. They're not, you know, they don't have chit chats on the phone, but some people are really aware of the aspect of, I can't just expose my marriage like that. My marriage is not an open door for anyone to just walk in and just partake in.
So what about people on the flip side of that? And I agree with you 100%, but what about people on the flip side that are kind of like, well, you know what, that's my best friend. They know it, like they know everything about me, and I want to share everything with them. Talk to us about some of the risks or some of the problems that can ensue from that. Because like, I was using that example that Pinder gave. Yeah. It's like, I genuinely believe that we are keeping certain things out, maybe certain people out, we're keeping certain things in. So what happens if that boundary wall is short enough for someone to kind of hop over?
I mean, to be fair, you know, I think it does depend on the maturity of the two people anyway, because you might have a friend who's, you know, you might have friends who are quite mature, and the friend who isn't in the marriage kind of knows, you know, when I get married one day, I'm definitely not telling you all of my business. So they might have the perspective of, okay, you don't want to tell me, that's fine, because I know when I get married, I'm not airing out my business like that either. Yeah. However, the risks for me, the risks of just having your marriage as an open door with friends or a friend, sometimes it can be a friend, some people it's friends, you know, it's the fact that people get comfortable naturally. People naturally get comfortable, especially if the person that you're married to, they've known them for a long time as well. And I think sometimes that's where it can get a bit tricky. It can get a bit tricky sometimes if the friend has known the husband for a long time and the friend has known the wife for a long time, that friend might be extremely comfortable to a point where it's like, you know, a random example, they go on holiday or whatever, and the friend thinks it's okay to just come out and walk around anyhow in front of the other person's husband.
Yeah, elaborate for us so that we can understand. So you mean...
Or just take their drink and drink it, you know, like where there's no... Like that there's... mate. Yeah, you know, so for me it's but like I said, it depends on the people. Again, you know your friends, you know how they are, you know how you conduct yourself around your friends, and your friends should know how they conduct themselves around you and your spouse, you know. But the risks there is just that openness. I don't think there should be a full openness. No marriage should fully be open to an outside source.
Got you.
Right? That's what I think. I don't think any marriage should fully be open to an outside source. I mean, we have our accountability partners and we're quite open with them. You know, we have a laugh and, you know, we tell them, we have certain discussions, we have certain conversations, but we do know that there are certain things that we're not going to discuss. And there are things that we're not really going to talk about, because as much as, you know, we
trust them, we rely on them. There's a bond between us.
Yes, there is still that thing that we have that we know. Okay, we're not going there with that.
And you know that's powerful, because this is the point I wanted to make, and I think Sarah's she's dancing around it, but she's hitting the point. So boundaries are great because they keep things out, they keep people out. They ensure that, you know, there's a degree of agreement and kind of unity between the couple. And it actually promotes intimacy. Boundaries actually promote intimacy. If there are things that we've agreed that exist only between myself and yourself, then there are conversations that we will have that no one else will have. There are emotional connections that those boundaries foster for us that they don't foster elsewhere. And I think this is one of the big challenges with a lot of people. And maybe we might see this with certain celebrities or certain people kind of in the spotlight, because they're so liberal in terms of their relationships, because they're so kind of vocal about certain things. I think that it promotes that openness you're talking about, that actually has the potential to degrade the level of intimacy personally. And this is one of the challenges, because a lot of people really, like when we talk about this, a lot of people think intimacy is just sex. And they don't understand that sitting down and eating together,
that's right,
like sitting down and eating together is communion. That there is something about that. There is this kind of a connection about that's developed, a fellowship that's developed about eating together. There's value and intimacy that is fostered through certain communications, certain conversations. And this is like...
that's why a lot of dates tend to be dinner dates, because people know, like, when we sit down and eat, there's something happening here. It's not just we're at the movies. It's not we're just walking in the park. When two people sit down to eat, you know, they're connecting in in a way.
Yeah.
You know, so it's so true. Even just sitting down to eat with somebody is creating like a connection and a bond, to be fair.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely powerful. No, I think that's rich. So, yeah, so I guess the next question, and we kind of tackled it now, but are boundaries really necessary? Are they really necessary? I think one of the major reasons for boundaries is that it fosters intimacy on the inside.
Yeah.
And as we said earlier on, it sets up it demarcates that area wherein friends externally can't really contravene.
Yeah.
And I think that's important. I think it's important not just for the married couple, it's also important for their friends. It's because, again, this actually fosters strength in your friendship. You know, it's like honor is developed in that, respect is developed in that. You have an appreciation for your friend for not crossing those boundaries. And I know sometimes these are the little things that we don't acknowledge, we don't take stock of. But the truth of the matter is, if I have a friend who I can go to talk about certain things, and they won't make a joke, they won't just, what do they call it, banter. They don't banter about certain things because they understand that there's a level of respect I have for you, and that they like, it's wrong to cross that line.
Yeah.
It's wrong to do that.
Yeah.
And one of the challenges there is, where there are no boundaries, we then have like this lack of respect and honor.
Yes.
So we want to banter about someone's wife.
Right.
Someone wants to banter about someone's husband, and then they're invoking certain emotional connections, maybe it's not the right word, but certain emotional dispositions in that scenario, and they don't know really what's going on, like in the background in that relationship. So as they begin to kind of cross those lines, just in conversation, cross those lines and invoke those emotions, problems can actually set in from those seeds that are being sown in that manner. So I think that's really, really important. A friend of mine, like Young Prophet, said to me years ago, he said, maybe I've shared it, he goes, no one should ever make you laugh more than me, basically. And it was funny at the time. I was kind of like, okay, that sounds a bit odd. Like, I'm not really a funny guy, so I expect other people to make you laugh potentially more than me. But I think when I really looked at the root of what he was saying, and the point was, there should be an intimacy between us that isn't fostered elsewhere.
Yeah.
And laughter he's talking about, like I said just now, we talk about physical touch and that kind of physical encounters, but really outside of that, conversation, eating with someone, you know, just spending time together. And when he made that point about the laughter, it's really key, because the power, essentially what he's saying is, there are certain emotions in you, certain moments that we have that should be invoked by me and not by someone else. And I think that's really important. We don't understand. And setting up those boundaries, someone says, I'm just a funny guy. Yeah, but I'm just that way inclined. So essentially, you may have a friend or someone who just happens to be able to kind of invoke those emotions, invoke that stuff. And what would you do in that scenario? Permit your friend to continue doing that, or would it be a point to say, hold on, I don't think that's totally appropriate?
In what sense? Like someone's friend making them
laugh. I know. I didn't mean it in that way.
I know what you mean.
But I'm talking about maybe observing, and this comes on to the next part actually.
Yeah.
So observing that there is an emotional connection, a bond that is being fostered between a friend and someone's spouse.
Okay, so now, so would this be a wife and a male friend, and a husband and a female friend? Because
potentially,
if my girls are making me bust up more than you, they're just probably more funnier than you are. Do you get what I mean? And it's not. Some of them are really funny, and it's not a thing of where I'm gonna be like, wait, oh no, I like, you know, Thingy makes me laugh more than if it was a male friend. Yeah. I'd be more concerned.
Yeah.
Do you get what I'm trying to say? But if we're talking female to female, it's different. So should we now take this up a notch and actually really talk about opposite sex friends? Because I think like that's probably where the issue now begins to come in. If a woman has so many female friends, her husband's probably not going to be that fussed. Do you get what I mean? Yeah. Because they're not a threat to him. You know, they're not gonna come and he's not gonna come home. She's not gonna come home on one day and be like, "Oh, babes, I'm leaving you for Susan." Do you like? Oh God, do you get what I'm trying to say? Yeah. That doesn't cross a husband's mind. You know, typically, things like that probably have happened out there. This world is a crazy place sometimes, but you know, but generally, men are not intimidated by female friends.
Yeah.
Men and both women tend to be intimidated by the friend of an opposite sex.
Yeah.
So, I definitely thought maybe we should crank this up a little bit.
Yeah, that's cool.
Because majority of people don't have opposite sex as best friends anyway. In my opinion, most people that I know, if it's a female, her best friend is another female.
Married couples we're talking about.
Yeah, most people, her best friend will be a female. There's a few people that I've come across and have known that their best friends are males, and even I'm like,
I know some people.
Your best friend is a what? As in, like, how can your best friend be the same sex as your husband? For me, that's just already alarm bells. Not alarm bells, but. It's like...
Yeah, you got some sirens going on. But that's just you. Not everyone's that way inclined, but okay.
Of course. But obviously, these people have known each other way before the husband showed up. The best friend, who is a male, probably even approved the husband and was like, yes, hun. Like, yes, sis. Like, yeah, he's legit. You get what I'm saying? Marry him. I think he's going to look after you. But then, it only really begins to become a problem, I feel, a lot of the times when it comes to opposite sex, when marriages start to have problems. Because if everything's okay, these things are not highlighted, right? It's majority of the time, it's when issues begin to arise that these things begin to become an issue. Yeah. So if a woman has a male as a best friend and then her and her husband start having problems and she's always told him everything that goes on in a relationship, he's going to start looking at that husband funny. He's even going to be like, some people are okay to say leave, separate, divorce. Yeah. Some people are cool, are okay to release those things from their mouths, However, when things tend to be okay, people don't, it's kind of like, oh, why is Johnny your best friend? Don't you think you should change best friends now? Like, you're married, I don't think it's appropriate. Or you're telling me you're going to cinema with Johnny. Like, do you get what I'm trying to say? It's like the mind can, no matter what, even if they just say they're friends, they're best friends, they've been best friends forever, they know each other inside out, whatever, that husband's still going to have an issue. And this is where problems can and begin. Listen, if Ezekiel ever did have a best friend for a female when we were growing up, she would have got shut down straight. Yeah, and I don't want that problem. Do you get what I'm trying to say? Because it's I've just got scenarios flowing through my head. I'm listening. Go for it. As I'm talking,
be vibing.
As I'm talking, I'm just even as I'm talking, I'm sure everybody watching this right now is thinking of a scenario where how south this can go, it can go, and it can go south very quickly. Some people have even, wives or husbands have thought that the best friend was just the best friend, end up finding out that they've been in a relationship the whole time that they've been married. So it puts a sour taste in people's mouths from the jump off, and it just brings distrust straight away. So sometimes I think to myself, well, why would you even want to put yourself through that? Because there's no way a husband or a wife is going to feel 100% comfortable with their spouse talking to their best friend, regardless whether male or female, 24/7. And you're just friends. Yeah, that's fine. That's fine. And I know you're just friends, but where's the boundary? Do you get what I'm trying to say? Where is the limit? Why is she still phoning you at 12 o'clock complaining about her date? That's not your problem anymore. But however, like you said, these things should be discussed pre-marriage. Listen to me, especially before marriage. If you start courting somebody and their best friend is of the opposite sex, you need to have these discussions, because you don't want that to be a problem later on, because then they can turn around and say to you, but you knew that before we got married. You knew Lucy was my best friend before we got married. You knew Johnny was my best friend before we got married. Why are you complaining 5 years down the line, kind of thing? And yeah, so for me, it's a big issue. And I definitely think, not that it's an issue that the friend is trying to ruin anything, but it's just an issue because trust can be, not even trust. What's that word? Insecurity comes in many different ways. It could come from a best friend. It could come from finances. It can come from looks. It can come from weight. It can come from so many different things. So in a marriage, you might think, oh, my husband knows me and Johnny, we've been friends since we're in primary school, and it's not like that. Yeah. But when he knows he's upset you and it's Johnny that you're crying to, it becomes an issue, regardless of if you and Johnny have been friends since you were 5 years old. Do you get what I'm trying to say? There's nothing that's going to make that husband think, oh yeah, he's just comforting her, blah, 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 blah. And she comes back to me and Johnny's done the job. Thanks, Johnny. Do you know what I mean? You cheered my wife up kind of thing. At some point, it's going to kind of be like, Johnny, I don't want you in my business.
Better stay away, Johnny.
Yes or no. Same thing.
Do you guys agree? You know, what's your take? What do you guys say? What do you guys feel?
Same thing for a female. Even like sometimes you have people that they cultivate relationship with colleagues, and these people have not been friends from when they were young. It's someone that they met in their adult life. That's right. And you know, that person only knows them as an adult, doesn't really know them as a child. So they don't know their characteristics. They only know what they give them. And then, you know, it's not like, with that one, it's like, I don't really owe your husband anything anyway. Wow. I don't owe your wife anything anyway. Wow. Whereas people who have kind of been friends from when they were so young, it's kind of like, no, I want you to be happy. I'm not trying to get in. Do you get what I'm saying? That time went and gone. It never happened. You know. So some people have different perspective on these when in relationships, basically. So for me, it's like, it's hot ground. It's hot ground. You know, having a female as a best friend, I don't think, you know, it's much of a problem, but there still has to be boundaries, because your female friend can't just show up to your house at any time of the day. Yeah. Do you get what I'm trying to say? And you open the door and you're in your lingerie and she's like, oh, I'm coming in. No, you should clock that. Listen, honey, this ain't the time. Do you get what I'm trying to say? You know, whatever it may be. Do you get what I'm saying? Or some people just, you know, call, oh, hun, can you come here with me? I'm going here. Do you want to come? And it's just like, you know, where's the consideration for the other kind of spouse? So yeah, there has to be boundaries, 100%.
Ooh, all right, 100%. So you guys heard Sarah's view there, 100. You hear her shooting for it. So one thing I want to say to you guys is, what's the difference? Another question right now. What's the difference between boundaries and control? What's the difference between boundaries and control? Because, you know, I know there are some people watching this thinking like, no, but you can't tell me I can't have so-and-so as a brethren. What do you mean? They'll be my friend. And even some friends will be like, what? So you're trying to say I can't be so-and-so's friend anymore? Oh, but they just my friend. I ain't got we don't have that kind of relationship. It ain't that. It ain't this. I know what you're saying, but that ain't us.
Yeah, but it's not, I know what you're saying when you phone your friend and you're like, oh, hun, look, so basically, should I get Calvin Klein boxers? Should I get these? It's just like, sorry? Did he ask you if you should get what shape boxes he should be getting? That's not your business. Oh no, hun, I've been picking these boxes since we're 13. So you can't do that no more. That. Yeah. Do you get what I mean?
And I think it's important. I need you guys to import. Look, we're here. We say this on a regular. So the whole purpose of this conversation is really for us to help those of you kind of on a journey of marriage. You're in marriage already. You're thinking about, you know, the days that you will be married, and we here want to really just support you. All right, there's this picture that we have of an authentic love. It's real inside and out, and we're trying to share that conversation with you guys. So we need you guys to help us foster this conversation.
Definitely.
So I think that where boundaries are not agreed collectively, like we're talking about now. So someone says, you know what, I understand you and Shelly have been friends from day, but that's got to stop now. And I feel like there needs to be a common understanding in that scenario, husband and wife. Because if there isn't, it can, if it's the husband or the wife or whatever, it can seem like it's oppressive. It can seem like it's out of spite. And it can seem, and this is why we talk about having those hard conversations early. Because if we have those conversations and we understand different worldviews, different perspectives, different expectations of the road ahead. And I feel like this is one of the major reasons why many people, young people, get into relationships for the wrong reasons. They get into a relationship because they feel like it's the time, or they feel like they're missing out on something. And in doing that, they put their wrong foot forward and don't establish the appropriate boundaries in the relationship that they should. Like we talk about this here on a regular. It's only by God's grace that we were able to kind of have certain conversations early. Yeah. Do you know what I'm saying? Young boy, I've been through a lot of stuff and that, you know what I mean? So had a sense that, you know what, the games was over, all of 14 and years old. And I felt that like God graced us to be able to have that view of the longer term.
Yeah.
But I think that today a lot of people don't have that mindset, and they're jumping into these relationships not really thinking about what's to come. Boundaries doesn't sound fun. Boundaries doesn't sound exciting. Setting up rules and structures
already sounds like you're trying to control me.
Do you understand?
And we haven't even kicked off yet.
And I think that's a major issue.
Yeah.
So I think that there needs to be this common ground.
Yes.
This common understanding.
Yes.
This collective agreement around the boundaries. And if you can't get that before you're like married, while you're courting, there's a major issue. And if you can't get that in the process of being married, you definitely need to get third parties in to really establish what's going on, because again, it's revealing that there is an issue there. Typically, you're not going to ask Shelley to come in and let her be the mediator for you saying Shelley can't be the friend no more.
Exactly.
But obviously, you need good counsel, good solid people you can talk to outside of your relationship to give advice, to give guidance, and say, okay, you know what? This is what we feel. Obviously, you guys go away, take it away, pray about it, like think on it and action it. But I think there's definitely this view that you can be controlling and it's not a mutually agreed, a mutually established boundary.
Okay. Yeah, I hear what you're saying. I mean, obviously there are some relationships where, you know, people get into the marriage and, you know, the husband or the wife just wants to shut the door.
Yeah.
They want to shut the door, and when I mean shutting the door, they want to shut everybody out. They want to shut out friends, they want to shut out family, they want to shut out siblings, they want to shut out colleagues. They don't want anyone around them in their relationship. Yeah. Now, obviously, that poses a problem, because then it's kind of like, well, how are people going to verify? Not verify, but
say it.
How are people going to verify that the other person is okay?
That's right.
You know, and we've seen many scenarios where, I mean, because look, men are abused too. Okay, men are abused too. However, obviously the dominant side is women generally tend to be abused a lot more than men. But there are men that are being abused as well. So we are going to keep to the scenario of both types. Yeah, both types of scenarios, you know. And you do have people where the wife doesn't want the husband talking to anybody. Look, go home, come straight back, tap the phone. You know, goes through the phone every time he comes back from work, smells his clothes, checks his pockets, all that kind of stuff. Now, she's got trust issues, straight up and down. You know, same for a husband who just wants to shut out everybody, don't want no one around his wife, don't want no one around his kids, don't talk to the kids, might go to a family event once a year just so that they don't seem completely out of sight, but forget birthdays and everything else that people do, we're not going, kind of thing. Now that is control, not boundaries. Do you get what I'm trying to say? And I do feel it's different for, you know, I would not expect a husband or a wife to say to their spouse, you're not allowed to talk to so-and-so anymore. Like, the spouse is a grown person. Come on. They should know whether, they should know how far they're taking that relationship. Yeah. Do you get what I'm saying? So they should be able to, what's the word I'm looking for? They should be able to analyze their friendship with person A, person B, whoever it may be. You know, it could be a situation where a wife or a husband begins to get uncomfortable with this level of friendship, as in, even if it's just a female one, why is it always you she's got to ask to go to this party? Why is it always you she's got to ask for money? Why is it always you she's got to ask to look after the kids? Why is it always you? Do you get what I'm trying to say? Yeah. So, you know, a female friend can cause a lot of problems as well. Yep. Obviously, like I said, I feel like same-sex does kind of cause more of an issue. However, opposite sex, sorry. However, you know, a friend who is a female to a wife can also be a problem if the friend is not understanding that her friend's life has changed. Yeah. You know, and I feel like it's definitely down to, you know, if people are really close friends, it should be that conversation pre-marriage. Yeah. Before you even get married, you sit your girl down and be like, honey, you know, I'm getting married in a couple of weeks, right? Things are going to change, innit? We can't go out the way we used to go out anymore. We can't do certain things. I cannot be spending money the way I used to spend money before. All those bags that we used to go and double up on, we can't be doing that no more. Like, do you get what I'm trying to say? Talk to your friend. Get your friend to understand, because even sometimes some of these friends might not get married for another 10, 20 years. Yeah. Yeah. So they might never even understand the whole marital aspect of life. You understand? And some people just think, oh, I'm married now, so in about 2 years you're going to be married, so I don't even need to talk to you about this because you're going to be where I am soon. Yeah. Just expecting that to be what happens for their friend, kind of thing. Even same thing for guys. Went out over the weekend, And one of our friends was there, and she was like, she went on a date once, and this guy came on a date with 3 of his friends. She was like, I'm not so sure what's going on here. 3 of his friends he came on a date with. Do you get what I'm saying? And she was kind of like, but just being the kind of person she is, you know, she just kind of like vibed anyway, she said. And they all kind of had a good time. And, you know, the rest of us were kind of saying, yeah, he probably brought his friends along to vet you. You know, to kind of be like, what do you think, guys? As opposed to telling his friends about you. He was just like, just come and meet her. If you don't think she's long, I'm locking her off.
Was that first date?
First date.
Wow.
Right? So, men, I mean, people have...
I told you about dating. You don't hear me.
You know, so guys, people have their ways of doing things. You get what I'm trying to say? And I said to myself, if that's what he's like with his friends trying to find a woman, what are they going to be like in his marriage?
Yeah, come on.
Do you get what I'm trying to say? What's it going to be like in the marriage? It could be a thing of where they will easily say, like, bruv, like, how's it going? And he'll just be like, look, it ain't going. Like, and already when they meet the wife, they kind of be like, oh wow, so you're not even helping my friend out here. And then before you know it, it's just like, oh yeah, let's go out. Before you know it, it's like, oh look, do you know what I mean? Have a drink with this chick, and it's a mess.
Yeah.
It's a mess. Do you get what I'm trying to say? So, you know, when it comes to, like, the reason why I'm giving these examples, because obviously we were saying that problems can cultivate very quickly and dramatically when it's the opposite sex, but when even same sex can bring in major issues. Yeah. Do you get it? I mean, I thank God. I was even saying to my husband, like, with me and some of my closest friends, we all have a similar mentality when it comes to that. Listen, honey, I love you, but you ain't all up in my business. Do you know what I mean? Like, we all just kind of have that way without even verbalizing it. It's just the way it is, as close as we are, as free as we can be with each other when we meet up and stuff like that. But when it comes to our marriages, everyone's kind of like, you know your boundaries. Do you know what I'm saying? You know your boundaries. It's but again, you know, like I was saying, sometimes it is down to that individual. Like, I know my boundaries with my friends and their marriages because I know how the boundaries you got with my marriage. Do you get what I'm trying to say? So yeah, I thought I'd say that.
So let's quickly tap into this really quickly. Then I think we're getting close to kind of going to some of the comments.
Yeah.
What do you think about when there's a challenge in the relationship? There's a disagreement.
Yes.
People don't agree, and then, you know, they're having a disagreement in the presence of others. All right. How should friends respond in that situation?
I mean, we've been in that situation, to be fair. You know what I'm saying? Like, when we started talking about something and then we're just not agreeing on it kind of thing. Or the conversation's getting a little mean. It could be a topic and I'm like, nah. And you're like, you know, from your standpoint. And it's so funny. I think I saw this the other day, not so long ago, a couple of weeks ago. We were out and we were having a conversation, and I was saying to Zeke, I was like, "Wait, you didn't tell me about this." And I was starting to go off on one.
Go off on me, she means.
Go off on here, and our friend was just like, "All right, guys, yeah, so next, like, do you get me? Shut that down." He was like, "Anyway, next topic," or whatever it was, and I was like, "Thanks, bro." You know, kind of thing, because if he didn't do that, we could have escalated. We could have just kept on going back and forth. But thank God, being the type of person that he is, I don't know what she's talking about. And I'll tell you after the street. Being the type of person that he is, he knows us, and he knows we don't get like that. So the way he did it was so smooth, and I picked it up, and I was just like, all right, fine, no problem. It must have been so good. I was just like, in my head, I was like, thanks, bro. As in, because the way he did that just kind of like, I think I remember actually. Just kind of like pacified the situation, and there was just no need to carry on again. Do you get what I'm trying to say? And if I was to carry on, that's just pure foolishness now on my part. Like, that's just childishness. It's foolishness. Someone's kind of like said something, as in clocking, you don't need to get this heated. It's cool. It's a minor, and it shut it down now, kind of thing. So, you know, how should friends react? It depends on the situation. You know, it wouldn't be good for friends to kind of be, you know, egging a couple on to argue, or, you know, sometimes people do it by throwing in their own little that, you know, their 1-2, and it's and you can see that they're not pacifying the situation; it's actually escalating the situation. Whereas, you know, friends should be able to, especially when it comes to a marriage, should be able to say, guys, like, you actually don't need to be doing this right now. Just leave it.
So, and
Is that what you was asking?
No, your answer was splendid. It's not that. It's so I'm trying to go like a little deeper. So
yeah, okay.
When they say you guys shouldn't be doing this right now, are they saying go home and burn your house down? Don't burn down our house. No, I'm being serious.
Yeah, it depends. Because obviously I said it like that, but sometimes some people can just be like, "Oh, guys, it's all right. Don't need to argue about that. This is nothing." Like,
but will it? My point is, will it continue? And I guess really
it's up to the couple, isn't it?
So really going in, is it right for friends to get involved in the beef? Or should they really, as you've said, be pacifying it and take that road? Because sometimes it's like two people in a conversation, a couple, and then someone else comes in and they want to back one of the couple. So it's like you said, they're in a way they're egging the beef on. Yeah, but the way I see it is like this, and you're right, and would you it's like so now they're causing a greater division between the two of them as opposed to being a mediator and attempting to resolve the situation. Yeah,
I mean, friends should always try and mediate when it comes to couples, even if they don't agree. They should always just kind of pacify the situation, because the last thing you want is your friend, let's say Johnny is siding with Lucy because Lucy's his best friend.
Yeah.
So because whatever, even if her husband's right, he's always going to back his friend. That's wrong. That's wrong. If the husband's right, you got to support the husband. It's not like, because for it to be, oh look, I don't want to say anything to Lucy because Lucy's my bestie. I don't want to lose her because of you, bro. Do you get what I'm trying to say?
That's a wrong friend. You got a friend that's lacking integrity there, isn't it?
The friend is, that's selfishness. It's pure selfishness. So for me, friends should always try and pacify a situation, especially when it comes to couples, even staying out of it. Like we've got, one of our really good friends, when we cut and kick off, she's like, I'm out. Bye. Do you know what I mean? Because she knows us and she knows that we're not, even if we were we kind of sounded heated, she just knows like, these lot are going to squash this any minute. Or she'll quickly say, all right, guys, it's okay. Like, or she might say, give Sarah a kiss or something, or hug each other. Even the children, they do that. Do you get what I'm saying? Like the children, even they're brilliant, stuff like that. If we're going through things, they might come and say, daddy, give mummy a hug, or that mummy, mummy, go and say sorry to daddy. And people should be able, especially when it comes to marriages, people should be able to say, look, we have to do whatever we can to keep this family together, to keep this house under, from going up in smoke. And sometimes it takes that outside person to actually, when they intervene for, both spouses kind of think, okay, yeah, I think I am exaggerating here. Do you know what I mean? I think I did kind of take that a bit too far. So yeah, definitely, I think people should always do their best to pacify.
Okay, 2 more quick points and we'll run through. What do you think about conveying boundaries to friends? So what's the best approach in terms of, this is a new couple. They've kind of they're just setting up their own nest, setting up their own house, establishing that rule. And what's the best way, do you think, to kind of convey their new established house rules to other people?
I mean, and guys as well, please feel free in the comments to answer that question as well, especially those of you who are married and you have experienced things like that. Please feel free to answer that question in the comment section, because that will help later on when we read it. For me, I feel like the best way is always just to communicate. Communicate with the people that are really close to you in your life. So, the funniest thing is some people have to do this communication and some people just don't have to, because that boundary is already set.
Yeah.
They've already cultivated that boundary in their friendship. They know there are no-go areas.
So this is a scenario where one of the couple is kind of that boundary person. The other couple person isn't. So they've come together, and someone's now said, okay, you know what? Like they've had some hard talk now.
Right.
So one person is really leading, saying, you know what? Look, the hard talk's really necessary.
Yeah.
So we've got to have these conversations. They're having a conversation, saying to them, look, we've got to set up these boundaries. All of this. Treating, we don't want people to treat our children a particular way. We don't want people to kind of be in our business in that sense. We want to lead the charge for our own house as opposed to, how some of the things that we kind of discussed earlier, we don't want that kind of external input steering our marriage. What would you say is the best approach for them to take to going out?
I mean, one of the things that comes to my mind as you was talking is that some people, their friends are their family.
Yeah.
Okay, their mums are not around, their dad's not around. They might have left another country, come here, and they don't have that close network like the other spouse might have.
Yeah.
And those friends could be, that fatherly figure, that motherly figure. They're friends, but it's still like, you are my confidant. Like, you know, you what my maid of honor, you walk me down the aisle. My dad's not around, so you walk me down the aisle, kind of thing. If you get what I'm trying to say. So some people do have friends that are that close to them, they're as good as family. So it's kind of hard for them to break that separation, because they're not just seeing them as friends, they're seeing them as family. You know, so it can be a bit challenging for that spouse who does have friends that are so dear to them, like that's like a sister to her, that's like a brother to him, you know. Whereas the husband, he's got his family, he's got his brothers, got his mum, so friends are friends. So he kind of knows that, you know, with that friend, he's always had his boundaries. But with his family, you know, the family are so close, but the friends they're close, but they're not as close. So in the marriage, the spouse might have issues creating boundaries with the family as opposed to the friends. Yeah. Whereas the other person who might not have family but has friends as family. So it depends, and I do feel that there does have to be some kind of sensitivity around it, because again, like we were saying about control and the boundary aspect of things, you know. So, but how would I advise that to be tackled? It would literally have to be something where both parties have analysed their bubbles. You know, okay, hun, you know, Thingy's your friend, you've known her for 25 years. Do you know what I'm saying? I know your sisters are not here. I know she's as good as your sister to you. However, you know, when we do get married, you are going to have to break away sometimes. You can't go everywhere with her. You can't eat everywhere she is. You can't wear what she wears. You can't, do you get what I'm trying to say? It's that matured approach for a husband to step up and say, this is what I don't want this in my relationship. And for the wife to step up and say, hun, I don't want this in my relationship. When I'm pregnant, I don't want your friends coming over and doing whatever it may. I don't know, it's just an example, but you know, it's people have to just go in and discuss these things head on. Don't wait for things to start to happen. Don't wait for you to start to see, oh, okay, he's still talking to her, it's 1 o'clock in the morning, he's still on the phone to her. No, that's no. Don't wait for things. Understand that your husband has a female who's a best friend, and figure out how you're gonna approach that situation. Understand that your spouse has a best friend who's of the opposite sex, and know how you're gonna, because even some friends are, you know, people have different maturity levels.
Absolutely.
You know, there are maturity levels. You might have the wife who's quite immature, not as mature as her friend. And her friend already knows, hun, you can't call me anyhow right now because you're married now. You know, go and talk to your husband about this. Like, do you get what I'm trying to say? Some friends take that matured approach because they know that their friend who's just got married is not as mature, not as wise, not as they are. Because there are friends like that. Not everybody's on the same level. You know, or it could be that whole little sister, little brother thing as well. You know, I look up to, like, someone looks up to their friend as their older brother. So it's kind of like always, oh, brother, what should I do? But it should be for that friend to kind of say, you're a man now, like, figure it out. You can't run to me every time, bruv, for advice. Like, I've given you advice over the time that we were both single. Now you've jumped onto the shit. You know, just different things like that. So I do feel like it's definitely down to people to, you know, create this to create the life that they desire, if you get what I mean.
I got you.
To create the life that they desire, and not wait for things to come crumbling down before you try and fix it. So lead the charge. Definitely lead the charge. Especially if you see things before you get married. You know, okay, this is going to be a bit of a problem. I'm not going to be happy about this. She's not going to be choosing the colour of my child's nursery.
Got you. So
do you get what I mean?
Yeah, we don't want to be reactive. Essentially, something happens, we're kind of reactive. We want to be more responsive. Okay, super.
Yes.
So, I think just the last thing, I guess, just, and I think this will help just overall. I want to talk about kind of boundary stamina. And I think it's so easy for people to set up boundaries. And, you know, grandparents might continue in the same vein. In-laws might continue in the same vein. Siblings may continue in the same vein. And we feel just like, you know, even though this is a boundary that we've set up, like we want to let it go. And we kind of, we're tired of this. It's been so long. It's happening again and again. And I think boundary stamina is something that we really need to kind of think about. And we need to really, from the beginning of kind of action, the planning stage, we need to really be mindful of the fact that, you know what, opposition is going to come, challenges are going to come, but we really need to maintain stamina in terms of our boundaries to ensure, as you said so perfectly, Paul, that we can live the life that we desire. Do you understand? Create that life, carve that life out, and you only get there through discipline. And I think this is where a lot of people maybe don't take on board the fact that discipline is required for boundaries, to establish boundaries. Think about people who go on a healthy eating regime. They want to change their life and start eating healthy. People who determine that they use a particular type of language and they don't want to use that language anymore. People that want to pick up good positive habits, waking up, sleeping, reading. Do you know what I'm saying? So different things that people are getting involved in. They want to save, they want to invest, whatever it might be. They're picking up these new tasks, and it requires a discipline, a stamina of discipline. And I think that when we think about boundaries, this is something that's super important. We need to really think about how much stamina we have in the long term to ensure that we maintain our boundaries. Let's jump into some of these comments.
Yes.
It's been good.
Well, we really hope you guys are enjoying this topic today. And I'm really looking forward to seeing what you guys have got in the comments section here. I'll wait for my darling to bring it up.
Yes, I'm here. So Kat Johnson says, good evening,
everybody. Good evening,
Kat Johnson. Glad to have you on a stream today.
Yes.
I think she was here for the top end. She said traffic everywhere.
Yes.
Traffic everywhere. Okay. So Grace is saying good evening to Kat Johnson. Good evening, Grace.
Yes.
Osa, fantastic evening, everyone. Good evening, sir. Glad to have you. Grace is saying, hey, what have we got? Any questions? Can you see any questions there?
We can just jump straight in. Ecos Mios.
Go for it.
Ecos Mios says, okay, I always had male friends growing up. So did I. Most of my close friends were males just because I was more easygoing and less drama than females. But when I got married, that definitely did have to change. I even met my husband through one of my close male friends at the time.
Wow.
That's fantastic. And you know what? It's funny because even myself growing up, I had quite a lot of male friends. Again, went to quite a big church and everyone, was friends at the time. But when I started going out with you, I did, consciously start to drop them because it was just one of those things where I don't want no drama. Do you get what I'm trying to say? And
she didn't want no drama.
And the funniest thing is, it's even sometimes, if men can be quite judgmental, with other.
So can.
Yes, I know. But what I'm saying is, it's just like, oh, why are you dating him for? Oh, So in my mind, I was just like, I don't need the drama. I'm gonna just hang out with my girls. So yes, Ecos Mios, thank you for sharing that. Yes.
I had some female friends, but we ain't gonna go into that now.
Yeah, like I said, I had to go.
Ecosmio says, what about friends that stick closer than a brother? Would you say your spouse's siblings of the opposite sex that they always cry to, confide in, get advice from, come into that category also? I think you touched on that a little bit already. I think that boundaries are necessary. Fundamentally, boundaries are necessary. I think with certain relationships, like you're mentioning now, Ecosmios, with siblings, and Sarah made a point earlier on about some people who don't have biological siblings, and it's kind of like their friends. There's maybe a small group of friends that they have that are their family. And I think Sarah said it really well in terms of touching on that. We need to be very delicate around that kind of scenario. I think boundaries definitely need to be established. You can't have an open mic kind of thing. You can't have your little sister wandering around the house with your husband, as Sarah said, and she's not kind of appropriately dressed, like she's sleeping over. And do you know, it's like there's certain things that you need to put into place. You can't have your little brother or your older brother, for that matter, there in your marriage conversation, and you two are kind of going at it, and the older brother says, well, the woman or boy, like brother, do you know what I mean? It's like we really need to establish boundaries. So I think it's very important that boundaries are established. And this is why I was asking a question to you earlier on about how to really promote those boundaries to people. How do you promote them to your friends? How do you promote them to your family? What do you do to ensure that they're well established and well received? And maybe not, as we said, we started from the top end, not everyone's going to receive them well, but what can we do to ensure that they are promoted and understood? So I think there are those family members, those friends who are family-esque, family-like, they are family, and I think we definitely need to establish boundaries, but we need to be sure that we're doing it in love, we're doing it delicately, and we're doing it with care.
Definitely.
Who's next?
Princess Elizabeth says the friends you rolled with before you got married, especially as opposite sex, should definitely change, simply because the enemy doesn't need to go far to plant seeds, especially if there's cracks in your marriage. Your spouse should be your best friend. You should be sharing you shouldn't be sharing your secrets, etc., with anyone but your other half.
Yeah, I think that's powerful. You want to pick that up?
Yes. No, I mean, for me, that hits a nail right on the head for me, and that's my stance in a sense. You're my best friend. I tell you that every day, even though I've got like really, really, really good friends who, I can call them best friends, but I feel like you are my best friend, and I have to give honor where honor's due. And sometimes we throw that best friend title loosely just because we grew up with people or people have been in our lives throughout, kind of thing. Automatically they're like your best friend. No, they're not really, kind of thing. Like, so yes. So for me, I'm 100% on that with Princess Elizabeth. To be fair,
I think it's important as well. Just kind of picking up on your point about the best friend. I think it's very important for us not to just say the person we spend the most time with, or maybe even the person that has the most information about us is our best friend.
True.
I know certain people who don't really have a big circle, so they are their closest friends, closest people to them, maybe 1, 2, and 3 people, but you wouldn't hear I don't think I'd like to hear them say that's my best friend.
Yeah.
So, but they're very kind of aware of their circumstance, their environment. I talk to this person maybe a couple times a week, maybe 5 times a week or so for a good amount of time, but that's not my best friend. So,
and it's funny because even before people get married, they do have best friends. Let's just kind of keep it there. However, they should begin to want to change that dynamic when they get married and begin to say, look at their husband or their wife as, okay, I need to make you my best friend now. You know, I need to make sure that I'm not everything that person knows about me. You need to know about me now, because there are things where there are people who before, their friends have been with them all their life, they get married and there are things that their spouse still doesn't know, things that happened in their past, but this person does. Get your spouse up to date. It doesn't matter. Do you get what I'm saying? Bring them up to date, and so that friend can begin to understand and begin to see, oh, okay, your spouse is becoming as close to you as I am. And even that can even create that boundary without people having to verbalize certain things, for people to just kind of see how things are going. Because some people are not so vocal. Some people are more action takers, and because they're not so confrontational, they don't want the drama, they will now begin to take actions that will show people that, oh, okay, this is where I'm going with this. One of the examples that I remember that I think about sometimes is, I remember a few people saying to me, really close people saying to me, like, you and Zeke's not have problems, no? And it's just like, well, you never tell us, we never know about it, like, seriously. And I was like, when there's something to tell, I will tell. Do you know what I'm saying? But, sometimes people just want to know. You just want to be in your business. Like, oh, they but that's even...
I think that's powerful. And going back to a point you made really early on, you were talking about the difference between assisting your group, your peer group. You're talking about yourself and your ladies, maybe saying, oh, someone said they're struggling in their relationship in a particular area. And I think there's a difference between sitting and gossiping. Sitting and just having aimless conversation. Just like talk and talk. There is no fruit, there is no benefit there, versus someone saying, I've got an issue, can you help me? And then, like, as a collective or as an individual, pouring into that person, and maybe not saying this is what we did, but saying, giving the counsel and advice that's necessary to get them over the line. So I think that's key. Thank you, Princess Elizabeth. Thank you very much, Ecosmios, for your question so far.
Right, we've got it going back and forth. Ecosmios says, would you say the same boundaries for a stepbrother or sister, or so non-blood related, but you've grown up with them in the same house as siblings? And you know what, it's funny because I really wanted to kind of like put siblings, family and friends in the same category, but I didn't. I purposely didn't choose to do that today because I feel like,
you don't want to hurt no one's feelings.
No, not even that.
I was just
because the family boundaries should be the same as a friend boundary. However, it can be a little bit more challenging in a sense, because family look at themselves, put themselves on a certain pedestal, and friends put themselves on a certain pedestal.
Yeah.
So, the question is, would you say the same? But definitely, I feel the blood siblings, step siblings, everybody needs to stay on their track.
Yeah.
Personally, stay on your track. Yeah, because it's not a bias thing. It's not even, personally, for me, siblings and friends, it's the same thing. It's the same thing, because like I said earlier, some people, they're not even close with their siblings.
Yeah.
They're not even close with their siblings. They see their siblings maybe on a birthday or on a family occasion, and some people are just not, but some people and their friends are inseparable. So, even sometimes it's easy to put boundaries for your siblings.
Yeah.
And it's more challenging to put boundaries for your friends.
So I guess what you're saying is that boundaries should be extended to both parties. However, really it comes down to, and the orchestration of that really comes down to your level of friendship
with that
or interactivity or intimacy with that group.
Relationship, definitely. Okay, 100%.
Perfect. That's powerful. Great question. Princess Elizabeth is back. And she says, a very close friend found out his wife and best friend were having an affair. His best friend knew everything that was going on in the marriage, so had all the tools to smooth talk his way into the wife. Into the wife now. Yeah, and I think that's speaking. This is one of the powerful things that we were talking about at the top end.
Yeah.
And when we were talking about, the wall, this Pinder's wall, I'm going to call it, that's what I'm going to call it for now, Pinder's wall, right? And it's important. What we're keeping out is temptation. What we're keeping out is lack of trust.
Yeah.
What was the word you used before? What we're keeping out, all of those negative things that have the potential to come into the marriage by setting up the boundaries. And I'm not saying to you that no temptation will ever come in. I'm not saying that no lack of trust, distrust will ever come in. No fear, no insecurity will ever come in. But we set up these boundaries to keep them out intentionally.
That's right. It's intentional. That's right. It's not by mistake.
And then
it's
when we consider Pinder's Wall again, on the inside, what are we doing? We're fostering joy. We're fostering peace. We're fostering intimacy. But those things only happen on purpose as we commit to set up these boundaries, set up the structure for our marriage to grow. Really, really important. That was really a great example.
Yeah, thank you. And like we were saying earlier, these are the type of scenarios that we are talking about, and these are the type of scenarios that people really have to understand are reality. These things happen. When someone is at their weakest, at their lowest, that's when anything can happen.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? That's when people can slip in, whether it be even, this one's even a friend. We've seen, they make programs about it where it's the sibling that slips in and tries to take that space. Do you know what I mean? So it's all about, for me, like they say, prevention is better than cure, right? It's about preventing things as opposed to trying to cure it. Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. Don't be reactive.
Don't be reactive. Okay, what we got?
Cosmia says, how do I explain to my spouse who has a best friend of the opposite sex that the relationship as it is needs to come to an end without seeming controlling?
That's a good question.
Yeah,
that's such a good
you want to tackle it?
No, you go first. That's such a good question.
So, thank you so much for that. My approach would always be to focus on the benefits of the marriage. So I'd talk to them about their desire, their goal, their vision for the marriage, and our collective desire, vision, and goal, what that looks like. And then who do we see in that picture? Do you understand? And it's just basically, you use talking points to discuss the scenario and have your spouse themselves see clearly, and this may take a bit of persuasion, and we're not talking about, there's no manipulation here. It's merely just about talking to them about what you've already agreed collectively, with a focus on clearly defining, clearly articulating what that picture looks like. So it's like and I say it that way because sometimes when you go in and you're like, I don't like that dress on you. You look fat in that. Or I don't think you should eat that. Naturally, we can be defensive, and depending on the Sarah mentioned it earlier on, the kind of the level of maybe emotional intelligence, the level of maturity, spiritual maturity of your spouse, they can take that thing as well. Even the most spiritually mature person, you can present them with something, and they still have flesh, and their flesh still has the potential to kind of respond in a particular way. So I think it's very key for us to acknowledge that we must be tactful in approaching certain things. We must use wisdom. We're encouraged to do that. So I'd say really think about. Don't think about what you're cutting off, what they're cutting off. Talk about what they're gaining, what you hope to gain, what the desire is, and where you're going as a couple. I think that might help.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah, definitely.
Cool beans. Hope that helps. If you've got any kind of additional questions on that, chuck it in.
Yeah, and obviously as opposed to seeming controlling, I feel like it's definitely about being as open as you possibly can to your spouse, to let them know, look, this is not a jealousy thing. This is not, I don't want you to have any friends.
Once you start using those catchphrases, those words, it's just like buzzwords. It's like
no, but it's kind of like, obviously for me, because yeah, no, it can be a bit difficult to not come across controlling, but if your spouse knows you, they will know that you're not being controlling. They should be able to understand that this is a conversation that needs to be had. Whereas some people do have that controlling spirit, and it will just come across like they are controlling.
I think that just because of the way we are, and I'm talking about just kind of human nature. Even some things can be perceived. We were talking about this yesterday. I think, was it us yesterday or a couple of days ago? Like two people could do the same thing, but in actuality, it's different.
Yeah.
Do you understand? And this is the issue here. I think there is always the potential that it can be perceived a particular way, even when someone knows that's not you. But because of the scenario, the circumstance, you have to remember. There is, like, especially if that's a long-term friend, there's some emotions that can be dredged up there. You're saying to them, like, listen, I think it's time for you and so-and-so to cut off your friendship. Just like, even that alone, it's like, why? Why would you say that?
Yeah,
I always knew you were, jealous of us. I always knew that. And it's just like...
But that's the thing, you wouldn't want them to cut off their relationship.
I'm just saying it that way.
I know.
Just like, even if you say, I think you guys talk on the phone too much. Can we reduce that? Like, however you present it, however you come across. And you can say it in the most... well-meaning way, but there's a potential for it to be taken the wrong way.
Do you think the spouse should speak to the friends?
No, I'm joking. So I think it depends on their proximity and relationship, and again, like, emotional intelligence is really key here. Like maturity levels are really important here. Ultimately, you need to have the discussion with a friend, and maybe what I said before can seem like I'm saying. Do you use this kind of subversion? I'm not saying that. Like, I'm not saying to be a spy around your spouse. Hopefully, you've already opened up this conversation. Like, if there's something I want to say to says, I'm not going to try and do some kind of ninja James Bond acrobatics. I'm going to be straightforward with her. I'll always come to her first up and say to her, you know what, this is the situation. She knows where I stand. Absolutely. I'm saying building on... So my recommendation before was based on the fact that I was assuming you've already had the discussion, so you've already touched on it. You already know this is a situation, but I think that's key. Firstly, have the initial conversation, and then building on from that. Even in that very initial conversation, I'd focus on what the advantages are of us going down this road, what our goals are. Do you know what I'm saying? So I think that's so hopefully that helps.
Thank you. That was a really good question. Princess says I always think it's also the topic you share with your friends. A single married can't... Oh, sorry, 1 second.
Yep.
Yeah. I always think it's always the topic you share with your friends. A single married can't give you marital advice. Okay, yeah, etc. Friends are fine, but if you place your friends above your marriage, there's a problem.
Yeah, and I see that is such a powerful statement. Thank you so much for that. And I think this is one of the major issues with relationship breakdowns. This is one of the major issues with integration of relationships into presently existing communities, because there is a mismanagement of priorities.
Yes.
All right, my friends should know my goals. When I tell my friends I'm getting married, they should know where I'm going with this. When and I think this is so important, and the friend should know the time to kind of step back.
Yeah.
Like, you see that situation where you said, our mutual went on a date, and then the person came with 3 or so friends. Fam, I'll be like, if I was one of those brethrens and you're telling me come with, I'll be like, what's going on? Like,
yeah, exactly.
Like, you're asking me to come on a date, to come and check your girl on a date. Like, what is this, a group date? Is her brethren's coming? Like, what's going on? 4 of us and just one of her. It's like already that there's some kind of an issue there.
Yeah,
do you know what I'm saying? So from my perspective, I'm always
an insecure man.
Maybe. So more than most likely, but I think that priorities need to be managed well, especially in this kind of situation. We should be talking about our relationship goals with our friends. They should have an understanding, not in that, this is what me and my wife want to do, but this is the direction I'm heading in. You should know that. You know the kind of person I am. You know my desires. So I think that's super important, that we should always have a view of our priorities and have them in place. There's no, you cannot be ranking your friends above your spouse and you think that your relationship is going to prosper.
That's right.
Come on, fam.
It's a done deal.
Before it's even got anywhere.
Exactly.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Kat Johnson says, bringing friends along on a first date, he's joking. She might end up with one of those friends.
No comment. That's real.
But that's the funniest thing. It's just like some people don't think things through. Some people just don't think things through. You know. So yep. What have we got?
Princess Elizabeth says, at Ecosmios, you're not trying to ask your spouse to end the relationship they have with their best friend. You're simply showing how it's affecting you, how uncomfortable you are, and the negative impact. And you see that? I think that's I think maybe you alluded to a bit of that, and I touched on that. And I think really focusing on the goals, the benefits of the relationship, where we're going, what our desires are. And then I'd say some of this would come in. I wouldn't lead with this. I think, again, this leading, and it really depends on where you are in your relationship. A person that, maybe not say that. I think leading with this has the potential to invoke confrontation. Not
if the person understands the fact that's the friend is, because some people, some spouses know that their friends are just a bit too much, but they're just not saying it. Do you know what I'm trying to say? So even if they know that their friends are a bit too much, and then the spouse now comes and says what they say, they could quickly jump on it because it's just I feel the same, but I just don't know how to how to
relate it. And my thing is, it really comes down to the level of character of your spouse. And I didn't want to really go down that, but that's what it really comes down to. Does your spouse really assimilate your emotional disposition well? Is that something you guys can discuss? And if you're not at the level to discuss those things there, you want to keep it on the top level. Look, this is our goals, this is where we are. And some people might say, what do you mean? What kind of spouse doesn't take on the consideration for their spouse's emotions? You'd be surprised. There are a lot of relationships where some people can't even share their emotional feelings, persona with their spouse because of the fear of reprisal. Do you know what I mean? What do you mean? What about me? And it's like, so we need to be sensitive to those scenarios as well.
Definitely.
So this is very important. I think what Princess Elizabeth Maya saying here is very, very important. I think that it's very key for us to be able to convey our feelings. This is a space of a really mature couple where you can really talk freely and say, you know what, your calls on the phone are really causing me to feel away. I'm really feeling, I don't know what it is, I don't know why, but I feel, based on this and this and this, I'm feeling this. And hopefully
because you don't want to get to that point where they're talking and you're like, listen, stop calling my husband, yeah? I've had enough. Dude, you don't want to come across like that crazy wife, you get what I'm saying? And then that could just turn into some next kind of drama. So yeah, definitely it's a mature approach. Yeah. It's a mature approach. Thank you guys so much.
Princess Elizabeth Meyer says, friends should stay out. Never get involved in the middle of an argument. Did I miss something?
No.
Oh, sorry. Never get involved in the middle of an argument between a couple. It forces one to choose one person over the other, and that causes future atmospheres. And I think we discussed that at length earlier on. And that's exactly the point we were making. It doesn't the scripture that comes to me is what God has put together. Let no man put asunder. That phrase. It keeps coming to me. And I think that's key, because what we see there is people kind of bringing division. And yes, one person's right, one person's wrong.
Yeah.
But fundamentally, ultimately, we should be fostering unity between that couple.
It should be a thing of where people are always trying to bring a resolve.
Yeah.
Not to dissolve. Do you get what I'm saying? Not to bring more separation. Like bring a resolution to the problem, to the conversation that they're having. If it's not going anywhere, good. Like, do you know what I mean? Bring a resolution, not some those negative vibes. Yes, Kat Johnson says it depends on the couple. Some couples you can leave them to talk it out, and they will be fine. Some couples you gotta be there. You gotta be their referee. Mediator, laugh out loud. No, but that's also true. Yeah, that's also true because some people can get crazy with their conversations.
And I think on that side, we're talking about really friendship and our friendship intervention, and I think that's really key. Yeah. This is really where you need to know the couple, know your friends, and this is where the boundaries are key as well. There are aspects of the couple that you want to know. There are aspects of your relationship you want others to know. But there are the layers, those deeper, intimate chambers that you don't want anyone to go into. Yeah. And I think that's key because what Kat Johnson's saying here is you can only tell this if you are aware of the couple's demeanour. Yeah. If you don't know the couple and if they're not letting you in to kind of see this side of things, you can never referee. You can never be a mediator because you don't know.
It's true, you don't know
I think that's key. Great point. Princess Elizabeth Maya says, when conveying rules to friends, make sure you agree on them together and you compromise on the rules. Be clear why you want boundaries, etc. Have an environment where you can talk openly to your close, friends about what you want, etc. Be clear what topics are off limits outside of the marriage and what situations are open to discussion. I couldn't have said it better.
It's so true.
I think that's so
well put.
Yeah, I think that's just poignant to the point, and it's very clear. Like, ensure you agree on them. Ensure they're not one-sided.
It's pre-discussed.
Do you understand?
You don't want to go there and be like, what?
Yeah.
Babes, do you get what I mean? You know what I'm saying? Like, couples should always try and talk things through before they go and talk to other people about it.
Absolutely.
Definitely. Thank you.
He calls me as Kat Johnson. It's true. When you get their wedding invite, he'll think twice about bringing all the friends.
It's so true.
That's a lot.
Princess says, Kat Johnson, I totally agree. Some couples can be led to sort things out themselves. You simply walk away and not get dragged in because you could end up being a scapegoat.
Yeah, that's real talk. And it's like that, and I think again this really comes down to just knowing the couple, understanding who they are, how they are, and your proximity.
Exactly, because I was even just about to say the person who is even the friend has to know where they are with that couple as well, because some people it can turn on, they can turn on the other person and kind of like, who asked you? Why you always get involved in our business? Why have you always got something to say? And it can now be a thing of where if it's a friend of the spouse, it can now be looked, the person can start looking at them from a different light, like, okay, you're always getting involved, like, we didn't ask you, kind of thing. So you also kind of have to know your place and know when. Exactly, definitely. 100%.
Thank you guys. Kat Johnson at Ecosmios, exactly. As my gran used to say, those that can't hear must feel.
Wow, yes. So my dad used to say all the time, you can't hear, we feel.
Kat Johnson at Princess Elizabeth Maya, she says, yeah, exactly. I've seen people get involved to defend one party, then the couple is back together, the person is against their relationship. But there you go, and I think that's key. You know what I'm saying? Imagine that. It's like two people are discussing, and person, then these two link up.
People can be so crazy.
And I think it's important. Like, this is why boundaries are not just for keeping the people inside safe, but keeping the people outside safe as well.
That's right. Definitely.
Real talk.
Yes. Anything else, babes? Do you want to cover anything else on this?
No, I think we're good. I think we're real good right here, right now. I just want to say thank you guys so much. It's been a pleasure and a joy just to kind of go through this conversation with you guys. Hope it's been a benefit. Hope it's been a blessing to you as we've discussed boundaries, friendship boundaries, in marriage.
And as well, remember, if you do have friends, you know, let's just to say, you know, you've got friends in your life and you're thinking, you know, how am I really going to separate them from my marriage in a sense and stop having them? So hopefully some of the things that we've said today will help you to figure out how to maybe approach the situation as well. But also, you know, I just wanted to add, we have to be prayerful about a lot of things. You know, even before we speak to people that we're really close with, we really have to go and pray and seek the Lord sometimes, because not sometimes, majority of the time, because even though we feel like we're so close to people, they could still take things the wrong way.
Absolutely.
They can still take it completely the wrong way. And, you know, but with the wisdom, you know, asking God for wisdom on how to approach certain situations is always key. So as much as we want to just go off on our own, oh yeah, that's my closest friend, she's going to understand how many times have you said something to somebody who's really close and you've both not spoken for like weeks? Because of a disagreement.
Days or hours.
Exactly. You know, so definitely, you know, you have to go and pray about certain things before you go and speak to people. It's very, very important.
So, you know, we're here on YouTube, so you know how the algorithm works. Come on, if you haven't hit the subscribe button yet, hit that subscribe button just so that we can have more people. Hit the like as well, so we can have more people watching this content. I've been Ezekiel.
And I've been Sarah.
And we're here today for another episode of Marriage Matters Live.
We
We're
can't
back in a
wait to
fortnight.
see you again.
See you guys soon.
God bless.
Bye.
Bye.